prosecution rests.
Master Veit, you have chosen to represent yourself, and yet, over the course of this past year, you've offered no testimony nor evidence to contradict the prosecution's case. If you have anything to say in your defense, say it now.
The defense rests.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Watching Watchmen. I'm Jimbob.
And I'm Joe.
And together, we're one drink in.
Welcome back, everybody. We missed you, sincerely.
I missed you, even though I never really hear from you.
I hear some things. That one fan writes in.
We have a fan. Thanks, fan.
We have at least one fan. Other fans, if you're out there, we'd love to hear from you as well. We welcome most comments. I'm not going to say all comments.
I welcome all comments, but I understand how some people might not.
Anyway, we are watching Watchmen. We watch Watchmen and we talk about it.
We do. The TV show based on the comic book.
And this is the 7th episode, titled
An Almost Religious Awe.
That's kind of how I feel about Watchmen.
You have an almost religious awe?
I do. Yeah.
What? How about for Damon Lindelof?
For sure. Yeah. Damon Lindelof, Watchmen.
I feel like most of the things he produces are kind of about an almost religious awe, you know?
He does have a fascination with religion, for sure.
Lost was pretty religious and
big time.
Awful.
I mean, it sounded like he said awful, but we all know.
But like,
we love it.
Not
yes,
awful
awe.
like bad.
Yes, like full of awe.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of awe moments.
You know what I mean.
I knew what I just wanted to clarify for our one listener at home.
He's not dumb. He or she is not a dumb person.
Watching Watchmen. Boy, this is bad.
What's bad?
We got off track here already.
So yeah, you heard our Just a Sip episode, I assume. And so we kind of recap the episode, but yeah, this is a great episode.
Great episode. Top notch.
The best episode.
Let's start over. Welcome to Watching Watchmen. Do I just say I'm Joe?
I'm Jimbob.
And together we
already did this.
We did too many drinks is the problem.
I only am one in, so I don't know how many drinks you did. So the episode opens with a staticky TV screen showing the words Watchmen, or the word Watchmen.
Yes.
It's one word.
It is. I liked it. It worked for me.
Yeah. And one of the things I like about it is, so it opens with this sort of, for those who aren't familiar with who Dr. Manhattan is, this nice little condensed exposition about exactly who he is, like his whole life story in, a minute or two.
German immigrant.
Yes. Son of a watchmaker's
son.
Yeah, that's
that almost sounds like a play.
It would make a good play.
We should write it.
Should burn somebody alive while producing it.
Yes. It's like that quote, if 1,000 monkeys are in a room with a typewriter, they'll eventually write Shakespeare.
Yeah, on an infinite timeline.
Yeah. What about a series of clones pulled from the water, given an infinite timeline?
They're basically monkeys.
I think they could produce some quality literature.
Probably.
Do you think they have literature on Europa?
I think they have a concept of literature. Like they have all these concepts like pre-installed, like Windows.
I guess they wouldn't have any books from Earth.
They might. Do you think he's got like LPs from Earth, right?
This is true. Ozzy does. Yeah. We don't really know what a day in the life of one.
But I don't think the clones are necessarily interested in that kind of thing.
They're not. They just have their religion.
Yeah, they don't have that like intellectual capacity for like curiosity and whatnot. They just, like I said, everything that they know is pre-installed. They're just running on the default package.
The game warden. Now he might be different. He's a unique little
Maybe.
one. He's different.
I think he's only different insofar as he's like got a specific purpose apart from what the other ones have. And so he just follows that purpose.
You'd think, though, because Ozzy can kill any of these other clones and they don't really bother him, but the Game Warden is different. There are certain rules in play. I don't know if he can kill the Game Warden.
Maybe it's if he kills the Game Warden, all the other clones will rebel.
Game over.
Yeah. Like, he can kill them, that's fine. But if he kills the boss one...
Then they turn red and flashy and they all get angry.
Right.
Yeah, I could see that.
They get aggroed.
Don't kill the Game Warden. Okay, so yes, watching Watchmen, 7th episode, an almost religious awe. This is the deep dive into the episode. We've watched it a couple times.
Deep dive in the shallow end.
And yes, Manhattan, an American hero, a 10-hour docuseries on Netflix.
Yet. And yet they managed to give the audience of HBO's Watchmen everything they need to know in about a minute.
The rest of the 9 hours and 59 minutes, it's just him making watches.
Yeah.
His attempts and failures at trying to make his first watch. We get to see what Vietnam looks like post-war, where it's now part of America.
Yes.
And they're celebrating, what was it, VV something day? There was some banners.
Dr. Manhattan Day.
Basically,
Something
yeah.
like
I think
that,
that maybe it's the anniversary of the war ending, probably.
And so, yeah, it's really cool. You have this whole parade of people dressed as Dr. Manhattan and with Dr. Manhattan, like, puppets everywhere, which is especially appropriate because, you know, he famously refers to himself as the puppet who can see the strings.
Yes, I love that line. And I did not really make that connection the first time, but yeah, the puppet.
It takes some
It's
people
fantastic.
a few tries. Yeah.
Not all of us can be you, Jimmy. What else? We've got a young Angela going to a store to buy some sort of a cassette tape
or rent it. Yeah.
A VHS.
Some sort of archaic technology.
Yeah.
Our ancestors used to use these to watch movies in the way that you and I might stream them.
Interesting.
Yes.
So they could just on their television pick whatever they want and they could watch it?
Well, you would have to have a recording of it on this plastic rectangle. And it would be really low quality and you'd have to adjust the tracking.
Tracking?
Yeah.
My goodness, that sounds horrible. The dark ages, I guess.
It was a difficult time, but somehow we made it through.
The great VHS famine of 1987.
Let me tell you about Betamax.
Laserdisc.
Yeah.
Boy, there have been a lot of technologies. Now it's just digital. That's just it, right? We've basically peaked as
well, to the assumption that we've peaked technologically is pretty much always the wrong assumption. Just because you don't know what's going to be next.
When they got compact discs, they thought that, well, this is it. Human There's innovation.
No reason to try anything else because these are shiny and cool and therefore the future.
There you go. She's looking for a movie, and we see some pretty interesting flicks in there. There were some elephant videos.
Some porn.
Some, what was it called? Silk Swingers?
There were a few of them. But yeah, it's kind of interesting how like they have the children's animated like elephant videos on the same rack with, you know, what was it? Silk Swingers.
Silk Swingers, which is a reference to the graphic novel. Yeah.
It certainly seems like a reference to, Sally's, Tijuana Bible, she called it.
Yeah, right. Silk Spectre, the original Silk Spectre back in the 40s.
Yeah. Back in the day, back in the Minutemen era.
And now we've got a series of porno movies inspired by her.
So yeah, like Angela can just come in and like turn the rack around until she finds, of course, a movie called Sister Night about a nun with a motherfucking gun. Yes.
Pretty cool. I would watch it. I kind of want to watch it.
I would totally. Yeah.
We'll have to look for it on VHS.
It apparently does not exist. It's a fictional film, unfortunately.
We'll have to create it then. Living in America's Plan. Great song.
We also see, actually, on that movie rack, before we move on from that, Fog Dancing.
Fog Dancing.
We couldn't think of the name in our Just a Sip episode, but it's Fog Dancing. The book that, what's her name, Lois Clark was reading.
Yeah, some from Clark Farm in episode, what was that, 2, 3?
No, it was like
on.
4.
4?
Something like, yeah.
Yeah. If you don't like my story, write your own. I think it was that episode.
Yes.
Yeah, she was reading that book, Fog Dancing.
Fog Dancing. By
Dances
Max
with
Shea,
Fogs.
yes. Dances with Fogs.
And now they've got the movie, which honestly, I think the book was better.
I think both of them don't exist. So, but yeah, you can go with that.
I will. Then we get she takes the book. What did the guy say at the desk? He says, "I'll be here when you take it back."
Yeah, this is not his first rodeo with Angela.
It implies that she has tried to get this movie numerous times and has failed every time.
Been thwarted by those meddling parents.
But she just smiles and she's got it. So she walks out of there.
This time it'll work.
This time it'll work.
And he assures her that he'll have her money when she comes back. Like, it'll be waiting for her when she returns the tape, because he knows that it's not going to work.
Yep. He's been down this road before.
Little does he know that he does get to keep that money.
And she gets to keep the tape.
Yep, because her parents are conveniently exploded.
For the low cost of both of your parents, you get to keep that tape forever. Did we mention we do spoilers on this show?
Spoilers on a podcast about a show.
Yes. So it's Watching Watchmen. If you haven't figured it out, we watched it. We're going to talk about it. So if you haven't watched it, I suggest you find a different podcast that's probably not titled Watching Watchmen.
Or watch Watchmen and then listen to Watching Watchmen.
Or if you haven't watched it and you don't want to watch it, I think there's a podcast called Not Watching Watchmen.
Is there?
Where they just discuss all things non-Watchmen related.
That's a lot of things.
It's a very lengthy podcast. Anyway, spoilers abound. Her parents get exploded.
Yes.
But not before we get some nice quality dialogue from the father.
Indeed.
Telling her that we should be afraid of people who wear masks.
Because they're hiding
something.
And so, yeah, Angela retorts with, well, it's only pretend. It's not a big deal. It's just a movie.
Yeah.
And he says it's only pretend until it's real, which is, I thought that line kind of stuck with me because, we have all these people playing dress up, pretending to be superheroes.
Right.
Is kind of this, this cultural idea that, everybody kind of wants to be a superhero. But then once you start doing it, the reality of it is quite different, a bit more difficult.
What they thought it would be.
Yes.
But yeah, it's and it's funny because it's basically describing what she'll do. She'll take that fictional movie character, and she's so inspired by it, she becomes that Sister Knight.
Indeed.
A nun with probably a motherfucking gun.
She does have a gun. We've seen it. She has several.
Does it fuck mothers?
I mean,
probably. I mean, it's in the title. I think it has to.
I don't know if that's literal.
And yeah, explosion, horrific scene of Angela losing her parents. Yeah,
and so as this is like building up to the explosion, and the Angela is witnessing like the puppet show, and she sees the guy on the bike ride by, and then it's like intermingled with memories from Will's experience of the Tulsa Massacre in 21. Yeah, so kind of reinforcing that idea that this history is repeating itself. The trauma is happening all over again. Different circumstances maybe, but it's, pretty much the same story.
Yeah. We're basically seeing another hero's origin story.
And it's also similar, I think, to how Laurie witnessed her past in the comic book when Dr. Manhattan kind of showed her the truth of her origin. So, like how Angela jumps back and forth through time. It's kind of they use a different like technique, a different like sci-fi mechanism to accomplish the same thing. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like that. And as the bomb explodes, I think it jolts Angela awake and
knocks her out of bed.
For the at least 6th time. And Lady True is not bothered by it at all.
Or maybe she is. She just, knows how to deal with this.
Yeah.
Like all these nostalgia patients doing the same things over and over.
You'd think a trillionaire would have help instead of being the one to check in on patients and give them
I'm sure she
tutorial
does,
injections.
But I think there's reasons that Lady True wants to talk to Angela Abar in person, you know?
Instead of holographic beyond.
Right. Yeah, all Cal gets is a hologram.
That's right. We find out that Angela has been, obviously she took the nostalgia pills and is having a adverse reaction. She's OD'd on waxing, as the kids say.
Yes.
And True is giving her the tutorial video for basically what to do in case you take someone else's nostalgia pills.
I tell you, waxing is not lit AF. It's not on fleek at all. So all you kids, youngsters into...
That's right. Stay in school.
I'll give you no malarkey. Stay away from waxing and vaping.
Cowabunga, dudes.
So I do like how in this scene, like, Lady True is basically predicting everything that Angela's about to say before she says it.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of a callback to Dr. Manhattan. You know, he would do that a lot with Laurie.
Right.
Be like, here's the part where you tell me that you're sleeping with Dan.
Absolutely.
And she's like, I'm sleeping with Dan. And he's like, you're sleeping with Dan? And, with kind of predicting everything that's going to happen and sort of resigned to the idea that it's inevitable anyway.
Interesting. A lot of parallels between Lady True and Dr. Manhattan.
There's a lot of parallels between everybody and everybody.
So she gets injected with the tutorial memory, I guess we're calling it. A memory?
Yeah, a designer sort of experience in a needle. Which, so that's
because she didn't
cool.
have the DVD of it. So
if you can do that, like, imagine what kinds of crazy recreational drugs you could come up with,
Oh, yeah.
Like, literally customize whatever experience you want to hallucinate. And
you could basically inject yourself with pure ecstasy. What would you call something like that? A drug that you experience ecstasy?
Ecstasy's already taken.
He OD'd on fun.
Or like, what is it? I just lost it. I was thinking of a literary reference. I think it was, not 1984.
I'm bored already.
Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, she finds out from the tutorial, which is kind of a really watered down sort of remedial, injection. Like it's, calm down. We're just here to flush out the magic medicine you took with like a natural host.
With more magic medicine.
Which... it describes it as like flushing the brain with cerebrospinal fluid from a whatever a natural host is. I'm not sure exactly what.
Right, a natural host. Yeah, it's she's experiencing what they called recollective infestation.
Yes.
So yeah, I guess when you take someone else's nostalgia, that's what happens. You get
all
confused.
These pesky foreign memories in here. So I like throughout this episode, in contrast to the one before, when all the Will's memories were in black and white, and all of Angela's memories, the ones that are actually hers, are in like this really vivid sort of saturated colors, kind of very opposite from Will's.
Yeah, very much so.
So you wonder why she would have trouble telling the difference. I mean.
Yeah, right. Just basically,
hey, did I remember that color? In black and white or in color?
That's how you keep it straight. Right? I think that's a pretty... But
despite that, Lady True warns her that seeing her grandfather now would be a bad idea because, she's not able to discern the difference between the two of them. Her identity might be compromised.
They'd have like a face-off where they both think that they're true Will Reeves.
Yeah. And then Lady True's got a gun pointed at both of
them. Only it's very clear who the real one is. The cerebral fluid from a natural host. I took that the first time I watched it to mean it was a natural host is like a relative or some selective host that you share some maybe genetic whatever with.
I mean,
apparently it's an elephant.
To be fair, you do share some genetics with an elephant.
With an elephant?
Actually, quite a bit, but... Yeah.
Get out of here with that heathen talk.
Right. Evolution and...
I don't want to hear it here. And this is not the podcast for that. And then we hear 12 hours to the Millennium Clock activation.
Yes. So we have this whole episode. There's a countdown happening,
Like almost like
as
a
if there
doomsday
isn't a
clock.
countdown in this whole series.
Right.
The whole tick tock down to oblivion.
That's right. Those aren't just empty
reinforced.
words. TikTok. It means something.
We got 2 episodes left. So what
2
happens at
episodes.
the end of those? It'll probably be kind of boring, actually.
We should probably just stop
I don't
now.
think much is going to happen.
Yeah. This is the last episode of Watching Watchmen. It's been a fun trip.
That is not true. We'll do at least one more.
At least one more. And then we cut to... Well, anything else we want to talk about with that scene? I think we kind of...
I did think it was interesting how Lady True asks Angela which memory it was that knocked her out of bed.
She was very curious about that. Yeah, and
Angela straight up lies.
lied about it.
Yes.
Yeah, she said it's her 10th birthday and she got a pony.
Yeah, and it seemed like she was like obviously lying. Like
Yeah.
Lady True isn't buying that. But I think the point she was trying to get at is that it is her memory and not Will's. And I think that's what she's looking for as the marker of progress in this treatment.
Good call. Because later Beyond kind of asks that same question. And she's
Exactly.
like, oh, that's progress. That it was your own memory.
Yeah.
That's great. You should do a podcast about Watchmen. You've got some good insights.
You think I should?
I think you should.
I'll just call it Half a Drink In.
Yeah.
This is Jimbob's podcast without Joe.
Drinking Alone with Jimbob. That's
So
a much
next,
sadder podcast. Okay.
So Cal visits.
Yes, he drives up in a blue car, wearing a blue shirt, listening to the blues.
I think he just likes the
genre of
color
music.
blue.
Yeah, he just
for
really likes blue. What's
no
that?
real reason.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good color. It looks good on him. So, yeah, let's just move on from that.
I mean, to be fair, though, I'm not sure that there's much that doesn't look good on,
That's
Cal
true.
Abar.
Hologram Beyond. I love that they wheel out that.
Yeah, there's got
device.
to be. Yeah, it still blows my mind that there isn't like
That's the best
a
way to
more
do it.
convenient way to do that.
Right. But you know what? It is wireless. There's no cables attached to it. I guess it's battery powered. I don't know.
But you have to like lug it out of the
You
office.
do have to manually roll this. It's basically the size of like a sewer lid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a manhole cover.
Manhole. And Beyond basically says that he can't see Angela right now because they're 12 hours to activation and visitors are not allowed.
Well, and
she's
yeah,
doing
for
fine.
their own safety. But
Yeah.
she assures Cal that Angela's taking to the treatment pretty well. Everything's going great. She'll be right as rain before long.
Good enough for me. Cal drives home happy.
Yeah, everybody is kind of like condescending toward Cal,
Yeah,
which is interesting considering he's a walking god.
right. But no one knows that.
Yeah.
Like, not even him, really. I guess Angela and Will and True, and I guess the 7th cat. A lot of people know that, actually.
Well, maybe. I think it's debatable as to whether or not True knows. So I'm still I'm still trying to figure out the whole True 7th Cavalry thing because I think during our Just a Sip, I mentioned how, and this is, skipping to the end of the episode, True
Fine.
Well, True mentions like it seems like all her dialogue choices are to drive Angela to go home
Yep.
and to activate Cal as if she knows that he's Dr. Manhattan or whatever.
Right.
Which would also suggest that with the 7th Cavalry waiting outside that, True is working with the 7th Cavalry. Angela just needs Angela to activate Dr. Manhattan so that they can capture him and do the whole plan or whatever. But then I'm like, well, Will did kill Judd Crawford, who is in the 7th Cavalry.
I mean, Judd killed himself. We could make an argument that it was suicide. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Will killed. Go ahead.
So that's really the part that's got me hung up because if they're on the same side, why would he have killed Judd Crawford? So that then I'm thinking, how does that all make sense with them not being on the same side, right? Like, so what do all of Lady True's ideas and dialogue mean if she wasn't trying to push Angela to furthering the 7K's plan?
She certainly presents herself as a villain. She's very.
I mean, who doesn't
looking.
in this show?
Cal Cal seems
That's
like a nice
fair.
guy.
He's pretty mild mannered.
Yeah, I guess Cal's about it. Looking Glass, he could go either way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Looking Glass is probably like overall kind of cool, but probably is one of those people with some weird ideas.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Where were we? Cal drives up, and basically that was the end of that.
After that conversation, he just asks, "Where's Lori Blake?"
Yeah. Where's Lori Blake? And that was when we transitioned to where she is.
Yes, not at all an awkwardly shoehorned segue.
Not at all.
Into Lori Blake waiting outside Janie Crawford's house,
playing the audio recording of Angela on her nostalgia trip.
Yes.
Talking about Cyclops.
And you can hang yourself now.
That's right.
And the whole Hooded
all
Justice thing. All the secrets are out.
Yep. And then Jane rides up on a white horse.
Yes. But before we get Petey calling in from Looking Glass's place, and so this scene seems like just like we get a little bit more of that cleverly disguised exposition where he's asking Lori, like, remember how you told me to do this, this, and this? And she's like, yes, because I said all that verbatim.
I said that verbatim. Yep. I love that.
But yeah, it seems like this is just like some setup for what's going on with Looking Glass. He apparently survived the 7th Cavalry attack on his home. Probably has one of their masks.
Yep.
And might be laying low among the 7th Cavalry.
Ooh.
Should be pretty easy for a guy like him,
Right.
He's white.
You think he likes wearing a mask?
He's from the South.
Is he comfortable?
He's very used to wearing that.
Do you think he's got his Looking Glass mask underneath?
See, that would show through the eye holes.
Maybe he cut eye holes and the reflectum. I think reflectatine.
Yes.
My apologies. Yes. So yeah, we see Looking Glass's bunker, and one of the deceased 7th Cavalry members is missing a mask.
Yeah.
So we can assume that Looking Glass probably took that mask and is now infiltrating the 7th Cavalry. He knows where their hideout is.
That's true.
He has one of their masks.
It's a mall.
Right. JCPenney's.
Where every shady character hangs out at the mall.
And she asks why he wouldn't tell anybody. And I think the answer is because he doesn't know how deep this conspiracy goes, right?
Oh, totally. It seems vast and insidious.
Yeah, it's very vast and insidious.
Yeah, so knowing that Joe Keane is in it, as soon as he reports anything, like he'll just, get Jeffrey Epstein or something, and there'll be no more Looking Glass.
And then Dale Petey says, should I report this? Or should I call it in? And she tells him no.
Take some agency, Petey. Come on.
Lori tells him that she'll just meet up with him after she's done with this quick thing, barring any unforeseen trapdoors.
If I don't meet up with you, I've probably been dropped into a trapdoor and taken to an abandoned mall. But anyway, so yeah, Lori just kind of abandons her walkie-talkie and greets Jane, who's riding her white horse. And they go into, Jane's house to have a little chat. Mm-hmm. Where Lori, really, I think, kind of overplays her hand a bit.
Yeah.
Which is kind of uncharacteristic of her. She's usually the kind of one, the one like asking the questions, and
she usually seems like she's more in control.
Yeah. But here she just kind of lays everything right out on the table for Jane, who is just sitting there quietly, like figuring out what Lori knows.
Right.
Until she's like, okay, well, you pretty much got it. So I'm going to go ahead and use this cheap Wilson remote control to try and get my poorly installed trap door to work.
Those they never work when you need them to.
You know what? What if she has a trap door like under each piece of furniture in that room?
She pushes the wrong one.
Might have hit the wrong button. Like that's kind of a real concern because she didn't know what chair Lori was going to sit in.
In the kitchen, some door just opens up and oops, wrong button. Yeah, I like the Wilson brand. What is that? Is that a brand for electronic equipment?
I know they deal volleyball. Especially in trapdoors.
Trapdoors specifically?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. They're the only player in the trapdoor game.
They're at least the biggest. Yeah. The mom and pop trapdoor places don't stand a chance.
For all of your trapdoor needs. She basically confesses that, that was the original plan was for presidency, but they realized that was two small potatoes.
Mm-hmm. I do like this line she gives, about when Laurie's talking about how Hooded Justice was actually a black guy because, a white guy a black vigilante would have been just, killed or what have you. And Jane's response is, thank God times have changed. And like that sort of typically like racist denying the existence of racism sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, the Emancipation Proclamation was a long time ago. Racism is over.
Right.
There aren't any slaves anymore. So what are you worried about?
Yeah.
Which is kind of a theme I think pops up with a lot of these characters in the show, especially the ones associated with the 7th Cavalry.
Like poor Joe Keane.
And Judd Crawford. Yeah.
The white man who just can't catch a break.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So hard for a white man to be who's also a senator.
It talks about Cyclops, and Laurie suggests that Cyclops and 7th K are the same thing. Mm-hmm. So why do we think that Cyclops would rebrand as 7th Cavalry? Do you think it's as a result of Will foiling their plan way back when? Is that when Cyclops ended?
That's I think that's part of it. As for why they might have rebranded, I think the release of Rorschach's journal might have been part of it. Because once that comes out, then it's like, oh, now we have this new icon that we can associate ourselves with, and sort of as they shift gears, I assume that they're not doing the same plan. They're not doing mind control movies like the 7th K was back. Or
yeah,
the
it seems
Cyclops
like their
was.
plan now is to create a new superhuman.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think like when the plan changes and they get this new context of Rorschach's journal, they're like, okay, so let's be the 7th Cavalry after, Custer's last stand.
We're not doing the Cyclops thing anymore, guys. We've got a new mission.
Everybody's on to that anyway. The OK symbol on the head, like it's a little obvious.
Right. But you guys get to wear these cool masks.
Indeed. And so their leader, Joe Keane, also then gets, all the police to wear masks as well to just kind of have a mask on mask.
Blur the line of who the good guys and who the bad guys are.
And so Jane mentioned, like, when Laurie lays out what their plan is, that the plan is to take the presidency, basically. And Jane is like, the presidency is small potatoes. She mentions that something extraordinary happened.
Yeah.
That's what changed the plan. So that, I think...
Dr. Manhattan, do you think that was the shift? Maybe that was the shift. Maybe they realized that superhuman powers were a thing.
Well, it seems to me like the plan was that Angela's referring to, or that Laurie was referring to, for Joe Keane to become president was formulated well after Dr. Manhattan's been on the scene.
Fair point.
But something happened, something we don't know about.
The Russians, we know the Russians are working on something.
Sure,
maybe
but
we've got
the Russians are always working on something.
That's true.
I think it might have something to do with whatever fell from space onto the Clark's farm.
That's awfully recent. Probably. Pretty recent,
but it does I feel like it has to have something to do with Dr. Manhattan. Like there's some kind of discovery, or they're like, oh, hey.
Maybe they figured out Dr. Manhattan is hiding. Okay, I think that's what it is.
Yeah. So whatever it was that happened, they figured something out.
That he's not on Mars, he's hiding.
And that it's possible to contain and destroy and replicate him. Whatever it was that happened sort of revealed all this to them. And so that's when they're like, oh, we should do that now. We could be a Dr. Manhattan.
The fact that the 7th Cavalry has a ton of true equipment it's not a good look for true.
Right. And so it also, reinforces that question I have, like, are they in league with Lady True or are they opposed to Lady True? It's hard to say. And you can't really take anything Lady True says at face value because, she's probably just lying.
But then there's Will, who has allied himself with True and whose sole purpose seems to be to take down Cyclops /
Yeah, like he did actually kill Judd Crawford, whom we know is linked to 7th Cavalry. So like, I don't know. I'm trying to, I guess now the big thing, like we've got 7K figured out. I need to figure out what Lady True's whole situation
and
is.
And why they decided Judd Crawford needed to go. I guess that was just to kind of spark the whole chain of events, perhaps. Kind of like how the comedian getting killed sparked the whole chain of events in the graphic novel.
Yeah. Or at least, spark the investigation.
And Joe Keane did say that Jane was hesitant sending Laurie to Oklahoma, but he decided that it was still a good idea.
And I think he might be doing it just because, like, given her history with Dr. Manhattan, it's like a huge. It seems very appropriate to like have her there to witness this event, like the destruction of her former lover and God boyfriend.
Yeah, they mentioned that there's a cage when she's talking about I don't care about any of this. If you want me to ask what the cage is for, just know that I don't give a shit. I think she said basically. I'm paraphrasing here. So what is the cage for? Do you think that cage is for Dr. Manhattan? Do you think they expect him to show up?
I mean,
they're using Laurie as bait?
Lady True says that the 7th K plans to capture or trap Dr. Manhattan.
Trap him, kill him.
So as if like the cage maybe somehow can contain, like stop him from teleporting.
They'd have to have some sort of a tachyon field.
Tachyons would have to be a part of it, I would think. They might even get some new elementary particle that blocks his other powers. I don't know.
Dr. Manhattanite.
There you
Probably. Go. That's what I would call it. What else? So why do we think Laurie went in there with no backup? That seemed pretty reckless of her.
Well, that's pretty Laurie, though.
Yeah.
I mean, she went to Tulsa just choosing Petey. Which leads me to think that, like, Petey is going to be our, like, sleeper plot resolution that, like, whatever he's doing, he's, like, gets bored hanging out at Looking Glass's place, and he's just like, screw it, I'll figure this out myself. And he winds up, like, saving Laurie or something from whatever nefarious machinations are going on.
How funny would it be if we never get any more Lube Man? That was the one and only.
That'd be terrible.
Be terrible, but man, that's hilarious. It's such a crazy thing to introduce.
Very random.
And then never acknowledge it at all. Also, June, immediately after the trapdoor, calls, I assume, Senator Keene, and says, Blake's here. Do you want me to kill her? How many people do you think she's killed? I
mean, probably not too many, because that trap door did not look like it was, up to code.
Or perhaps it's been used so many times, it's wearing out and it needs new ball bearings.
I feel like if it had been used a lot of times, she would know how to use it a little better. Like the remote.
She pushed the button. She knew how to operate it. It was a malfunction in the Wilson branded, but never buy Wilson branded trapdoors.
A malfunction like that doesn't just happen at once, right? Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. And then the other, why did they have Judd killed? It's a big question.
So, I mean, I think the simplest answer is that Will knew that he was 7th Cavalry, probably using his psychic mind reading powers.
So do you think that was unplanned? The 7th Cavalry did not anticipate that?
Judd's death?
Yeah.
I don't think so. But
I don't know. June just seems so evil and so okay with him being gone. It's almost like it was part of their plan.
It is true. The whole time that he's been dead, she has been surprisingly cool about it.
Yeah.
So,
The only other question I have is, how many trapdoors do they have in the Crawford house?
Right, they got like their secret closet for your clan robe.
Do you think she has a button for releasing the hounds?
Releasing the bees?
The bees?
The hounds with bees in their mouths, so when they bark, they shoot bees at you?
Yes, they have those. Next scene, we've got Angela with Beyond.
Yes, so Beyond comes into Angela's room and gives her little test for her dissertation. Yeah.
She's a genius, just like her mother.
Yeah, sort of reminiscent of a Rorschach test. Also like the Voight-Kampff empathy test. And she mentions that it's, on the...
For everyone not familiar with the Voight-Kampff empathy test, I'm familiar, but for our listeners at home...
So yeah, that's from Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was then adapted to the movie Blade Runner. There are replicants, like androids, running around hiding amidst society.
Jesus. There are?
Yes.
In our society?
In this book, in the movie.
Okay.
In that world. So it's like a post-apocalyptic sort of future. And they have it looks like we're going to be 2 drinks in. They have this, people who hunt the androids have this test where they arrest somebody they suspect of being an android and ask them these questions.
Are you an android? Basically
testing them for empathy responses, because the theory is that androids are devoid of empathy.
Interesting.
The book / movie, of course, leaves that a pretty open question as to whether or not they do and what the true nature of empathy really is. And so I think it's also kind of interesting how, as Beyond is administering this test to Angela, it's like superficially about what's on the cards. You know, she shows her these cards, asks her like a confusing question, and then like questions Angela's response every time.
Right.
And we see there are all these little shots of Angela in between these questions, looking like she's getting frustrated, getting angry, but she suppresses that anger. And so when Beyond mentions that, you know, it's she's studying the role of rage suppression in social cohesion, she's like really testing Angela's rage suppression in a social situation.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That is totally Angela. She suppresses a lot of rage.
That is totally everyone, really. Everyone who knows trauma.
Especially Hooded Justice and Angela. They seem to really harp on that.
And so, yeah, I think it's kind of interesting, like ties into a lot of, you know, we have the show about, you know, race and, you know, racial trauma and anger. Like, how could you not be angry, you know, having experienced something like the Black Wall Street massacre, you know? Yeah. So I guess the suggestion is that all these people carrying around these feelings have to kind of suppress them for the sake of keeping society together. You know, people suppress their anger for the sake of keeping everything running. Yeah. But then how healthy is that?
And skipping ahead a little bit, but in True's speech, he talks about how people were so focused on the bad events in their life. They're so burdened with their trauma, they can't move on and experience
and transform and become something.
So perhaps this is all tied into True's ultimate plan with the Millennium Clock and
so you know you hear
for all.
I've seen a lot of mentions online about theories about like is True's plan going to be like an empathy bomb, you know?
Yeah, right.
Force everybody to experience all these traumatic memories so that they can, you know, understand each other, I guess, better.
Yeah.
But I think it's still a little too early to tell what exactly the Millennium Clock might do.
Do you think we'll find out in 1 or 2 more episodes?
Yes, because that's all that we have left. I think we'll find out in the finale, but you know, it'll be like True's going to have her moment where she's like, I triggered it 35 minutes ago.
I think they need to do that.
Yeah, something like that, you know? Yeah. And, whatever the repercussions of the clock are, we'll be able to see that pretty clearly. And it's happening soon. Like by the end of this episode, she mentions that the 7th Cavalry was an hour away.
An hour away.
And which also seemed to coincide with the countdown towards the activation of the clock. Yeah. So, you know, that's another sort of clue that they might be in league, is that their plans are like synced up time-wise. But it also might work if they're working against each other, because Lady True would activate.
Could really go either way.
In response. Yeah, it really does.
Because,
it really could,
she could be working against them, or she could just be doing that villainous thing where she's revealing her plan to Angela, you know, talking about how they're going to kill Dr. Manhattan and steal his powers.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what she's going to do. Maybe it's just a race to become the next Dr. Manhattan.
I think we're going to see Bubastis before the series is over.
God, I hope so.
Me too. That's going to be the big reveal at the end of the season. Anything else we want to talk about with the Beyond scene?
Oh, man. So, there's Beyond asking about...
why is it hard lying to your...
Yeah, she starts going down that road, like really pushing Angela's buttons, like buttons she knows that are there. And it kind of, it almost seems like that line of questioning is what pushes Angela into her next memory flashback.
Interesting.
Yeah, as soon as she starts mentioning that, Angela remembers her badge from when she was a kid, and then she remembers Will Reeves' badge and Bass Reeves' badge, and all these things start like flooding back, and then Beyond's like, Detective Abar, like her voice gets all echoey and it's like, right. Oh, Detective Abar, are you having a flashback? You're having a flashback. You know, that sort of thing. And so then, the next scene transitions into her flashback.
Flashback to Saigon.
To being a child labor force.
Basically.
Yeah.
In the orphanage.
Mm-hmm. Making little wooden Dr. Manhattan toys.
I wish we could have gotten her singing It's a Hard Knock Life in Vietnamese. That would have been amazing. She's making some nesting dolls of Dr. Manhattan. Mm-hmm. So a nesting doll, you familiar with this?
I've heard of this. Matryoshka dolls, yeah.
Yeah, exactly those. They can fit, they fit inside of all the other, like smaller ones go in there.
Yeah.
It's a little foreshadowing, I guess, of Dr. Manhattan hiding nested inside another person. Of someone else.
Sort of like an egg?
An egg. Oh my gosh. It's all
coming together,
full
folks.
Circle. And then we get some police officers coming by to talk to Angela to ID a suspect.
Yeah, and our grumpy orphanage, what would you call her? Head mistress or whatever?
Sure. Head bitch.
Like, why is that such a thing?
Why is that?
Can nobody who runs an orphanage just be a pleasant person?
Well, you obviously don't have kids, Jimmy.
That's fair.
They drive you to insanity.
That's fair.
I can't imagine. Like, I can handle my own kids, but someone else's kids, if I had to watch 20 kids that aren't
who don't
biologically
have their own
related
parents,
to me, I would probably turn into that as well.
Have them all painting dolls.
Yeah. Just try walking a mile in her shoes and we'll see how you handle it. So Angela gets called out of child labor camp to look at the suspect.
By Officer Jen and Officer Roy.
Jen and Roy.
Yeah. Very American sounding names for
they are very American
Vietnamese police. Yeah.
And Angela... They basically say, it's okay, don't be scared. And she's like, I'm not scared. She's
Angela's just little kid Angela, just
suppressing all of these emotions.
Or just processing things, differently, than you might expect.
Maybe that's why Dr. Manhattan was so attracted to her. So emotionless. I do want to say, I don't remember her showing any emotions at all. Like when her parents got exploded, I don't think we saw her shed a tear.
Well, I think there was this second of realization before the bomb went off where she's just like she sees that guy ride the bike over there and then it goes off and you just see her face right before the explosion knocks her over. We don't really get to see what her response really is to that other than that, brief flash there.
Fair.
But
but later when June dies, it seemed like she was just also no real tears were shed.
Well, in that case, I feel like it's
not a whole lot of an attachment to June.
Well, and also this is kind of the pattern for her now, right? Like her parents died, her grandma comes in, she's kind of used to the idea of not being used to having a family.
Kind of goes back to her talk with Topher when she says that you and I both know that the world's not all sunshine and rainbows. And what did he say? My parents were cops and cops die.
Yeah.
Just a very dark outlook.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So she IDs the suspect. She's very sure that it's him. Do you think it was the scar that gave him away?
It
would be great if he had the puppet Dr. Manhattan and he's just doing his little routine. She's like,
now I recognize
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's him.
Okay, I get it. Yeah. She just kind of, without even batting an eye, she's like, that's him. And she's like, can I stay and listen?
And that's when she earned her badge.
Yeah. So the Officer Jen at that point just kind of gives her this tiny little smile and is like, you're clearly a monster. You've got what it takes to be a cop. Hands her the badge as if, that kind of trauma or that resilience in the face of violence and whatnot is one of the essential ingredients to being a cop.
That's what it takes.
Which is, kind of an interesting, maybe not the expected. What am I trying to say?
I couldn't tell you.
It's not a typical portrayal, I don't think.
Of the path to becoming a police officer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, most people become a cop because they, want to promote justice.
Sure.
Or like the idea is that you want to promote justice and do good. But then you see this kid who wants to listen to a man get shot.
Sure. And it's, in a way, it's a form of justice, though. It's just a very violent.
It is, but like it's definitely more on the side of vengeance than just like Angela wants to listen because has
Sure.
an emotional investment in this guy's death.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of a dark thing. And this dark thing is what prompts the cop to give her the badge.
She recognizes it early on and says, "You need to be a police officer. You got
your
spunk,
dark
kid.
passengers thing. You're like a Bruce Wayne.
Your metachlorians are off the charts."
Yeah.
So they instead of taking him back to prison or wherever, they just take him to the back of the orphanage and shoot him.
Right.
As they do.
Yeah.
Following protocol.
The justice system, as we've seen, is definitely a bit more loosey-goosey with the rules.
It was a little reminiscent of the Tulsa, though, because the guy in the back seat's got the bag over his head, right? Mm-hmm. I think they did that with the 7th Cavalry members.
Yeah,
they
just
put
round them all
bags
up
over their heads, bring them into the pod.
No due process or anything.
Right.
Let's just figure this out and get rid of the ones who don't fit.
Jen was right. Angela is perfect for this job. She was born
pretty much
to do it.
And so then we have a bunch of flashes of Will's memories too. And, June telling her that, you're not going to get justice with a badge, but with the hood. So, we know that Angela has both the badge and the hood. And so,
quite literally,
that's how she pursues justice.
And cut back to the transition of Angela's eyes to the stained glass windows, and we're in a courtroom. I believe it's on Europa, if I'm not mistaken.
It's certainly in a fancy mansion.
Certainly. The Lord of the Manor is on trial, the 365th day of trial.
Yes, this clearly kangaroo court situation where everybody's against Ozzy and he doesn't even try to defend himself.
I would like to know what they discussed in the other 364 days.
Yeah, they had some drawings. They had the drawing of the squid.
I do love the stenographer. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the what do you call it? The artist drawing Ozymandias,
right,
sitting there in his full costume. So did he wear his outfit every day of this trial?
I guess he's just living in that outfit now.
I mean, if you got the costume, might as well get some mileage out of it, right?
He seems to really enjoy wearing it. I can't blame him.
It's pretty sharp.
Yeah. He really rocks the purple.
So the game warden, and the game warden's pretty interesting to me. Like, because he's one of these clones just like all the others. But
looks like them anyway.
Well, except that he wears a mask.
He does.
Which is kind of, like on Earth, people wear the mask to hide their identity. It seems like on Europa, among the clones, everybody looks exactly the same. So wearing a mask gives you an identity instead of, hiding it.
Are you suggesting that any old Mr. Phillips could just put on a mask and pretend to be the game warden?
No, I'm saying that the game warden wears the mask to distinguish himself from all the other.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying, in theory, Mr. Phillips could put on the mask and essentially...
He'd have to grow a mustache.
That's true. And that could take weeks, probably.
If it's even possible. I mean,
put him in the microwave.
In that microwave, their hair grows, but he doesn't have any facial hair when he came out.
That would be great. So we get the trial, and we find out that there's really only one golden rule, and that is thou shalt not leave.
And it's in spite of that, it's pretty interesting that the prosecutor Crookshanks makes a point to bring up like all of these things Ozymandias has done that are kind of irrelevant to what the trial at hand is. That she brings up the squid and killing 3 million people and how he hasn't apologized for that.
Yeah.
And how he kills them or whatever.
Yeah.
But it seems like those are all things that he's not really being judged for. Like that, like he has it's almost understood like he has the right to kill the servants if he wants to. He just can't leave.
No one seemed to mind.
But she still feels the need to bring that up like super passionately, as if she's like going through the motions of an accusatory.
Well, so basically the fact that he's leaving is now all of a sudden it's bad. Yeah. It's like they didn't mind until they realized that it was for that purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is really interesting to me.
It is very interesting.
And I also felt like this whole scene kind of reminds me of, so like one of the last things he says in the books is he asks John if what he did is the right thing in the end. And John doesn't really give him an answer. He says nothing ever ends and then disappears.
Yeah.
So Ozzy might be at this point kind of obsessed with trying to figure out whether or not the whole squid drop thing that he did is the right thing to do, whether or not he saved the world or made it worse or what have you. And so I think when he's in this trial and everybody's calling him guilty, like that's kind of why he sheds that tear. Mm-hmm. Like everybody's sort of pointing the finger, like he feels himself, he's forcing himself to feel guilty about having killed all those people.
Yeah.
Because he's not sure whether or not that's really the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's a fair question because we're also questioning whether or not his plan was effective.
I'd have done it.
Totally. Kill millions, save billions.
It's just New York anyway. That'd be fine.
How big was the radius, though? Because the psychic wave was outside of New York, at least Hoboken, New Jersey.
Yeah, and so apparently sensitive psychic people would have felt it around the whole world. Mm-hmm. But the psychic blast radius, at least, extended into most of that sort of New England area. I'm not sure exactly how far it was, but...
I do want to point out that after the Crookshanks was doing her whole whatever spiel, mm-hmm. after she's done, she kind of winks at Ozymandias. Yeah. She winks with the wrong eye. Normally when you wink with the eye not facing the judge. That's true. She winked with the eye facing the judge.
Yeah, so her left eye, yeah.
I mean, it just adds confusion to what to make of that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of confusion here because they're accusing him of all these crimes, but they all still refer to him as master.
Yeah. They also say before he came to us, it implies that they existed there before Ozymandias showed up.
That's possible.
There was a whole, whatever this world is.
Yeah.
They were living and they were fine. Just and then Ozymandias showed up. Doing
Crookshanks things.
Just doing anything except escaping.
Yeah. I don't know. Because in a lot of ways, it does seem like this place was designed for him. Like
that's what I thought. But then when she said that before he came to us, that told me that this was in existence prior to his arrival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's certainly confusing.
Yeah.
Did you notice the game warden's desk or the bench that he's adjudicating from is the chamber?
Yes.
That Mr. Phillips was burned in in the second episode?
Yes, I did notice that.
Yeah,
that was great. Yeah. I don't know if there's any significance to that, but it was nice. I like just repurposing.
Yeah, the kind of like
stage decor.
Using his crime, insofar as it is a crime to burn alive one of these creatures, mm-hmm. As sort of the foundation of his trial, his punishment.
So then the game warden says that Ozymandias is not worthy of this jury, so he's going to get a different jury, more appropriate, and it's a bunch of pigs.
Yes. And I'm sure he felt very proud of that joke.
I think he was. And then he lifts the pig up and asks what the verdict is, and it squeals, and he somehow interprets that to mean guilty. Are we to assume that he speaks pig? Is that one of the abilities of the game warden?
It's possible.
How many languages does he speak?
Well, like I said, he comes preloaded with this like software, right?
Right.
So it could be pig and minesweeper and making honeycomb cake that tastes bad.
It tastes like the bee's knees.
But still not quite understanding the purpose of a horseshoe.
Not yet. And then we transition Ozymandias' tear on his face, and then we see the golden statue mm-hmm. in True's vivarium.
Yes.
And then a little butterfly mm-hmm. flies by.
Very much like in the comic book. Yes, there's a butterfly in the vivarium right before it opens, and he kills his servants by exposing them to Antarctica.
Fantastic.
Indeed.
So there's a theory floating around that Ozymandias is actually contained inside this golden statue, that he's in some sort of a
suspended animation or something.
And the butterfly flying by, a butterfly emerging from a cocoon, mm-hmm. sort of supports that theory.
Possibly. I'm not so sure I buy that. I think it's just one of those theories that's like so out there that it might be true, but
Almost
it's also
like Cal being Dr. Manhattan.
See, that one did have a lot of foreshadowing.
A lot of foreshadowing.
This one, I feel like it might have some foreshadowing, but it might also be misleading.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. That's the thing about foreshadowing is before you see the thing that's being foreshadowed, you don't know what was foreshadowing and what wasn't. You know, you don't know.
Hindsight sees 20/20.
You don't exactly. You don't know all the ingredients until you see the final product.
Yeah, right.
So
it is interesting, though. I guess I can get into it later at the end, but it goes into my theory.
Go ahead. We're just crazy on this podcast.
So we've got the theory that Ozymandias may be Lady True's father.
Yeah.
I think I expressed this in the previous Just a Sip, but I'll go ahead and
love that to be true.
Repeat it.
You?
There is a lot of evidence to support this.
I think there is some evidence, yeah.
And the fact that some object falling from space was very important to True, and that's why she bought the Clark farm.
Mm-hmm.
It's entirely possible that she retrieved a golden encased Ozymandias, and that's how he has arrived.
So you're saying he encased himself in gold?
Not necessarily himself. I don't. There's some still questions. Right. Obviously,
do you think that the clones like froze him in carbonite?
It's possible.
Like Dan Dreiberg flew Space Archie to Europa to rescue him after he saw his message.
I don't. Well, so the Save Me D could be Save Me Daughter. Or it could be Dale Petey. I think Lube Man is the key to all of this.
Does Lube Man have many powers in space?
I mean, you could probably use
there's
lube.
Already, you're in like a frictionless environment with no atmosphere, so you don't even need lube, right?
But what happens when you introduce lube into a frictionless environment?
Nothing. It just floats there.
Perhaps. Or perhaps you
travel through time.
It's a theory. We're all missing some pieces here. But there are a lot of hints that True and Ozzy are related.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just interesting.
The thing is, though, like a lot of those hints.
She says that her father is coming.
That's true. But what if her father is Dr. Manhattan?
I knew you were getting on this. That's why I was bringing up the parallels between True and Manhattan.
Right. So
I could see that.
Yeah, exactly.
After watching it multiple times, it seemed like there were a lot of
foreshadowing for either one. So you don't know which one's going to be the foreshadowing until it happens.
You don't know. It does beg the question, though. Well, I might actually. We're going to go off topic here for a little bit.
Let's get into the woods.
Now that we've established that Cal is in fact Dr. Manhattan, we remember the flashback to the White Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Cal is anxiously awaiting some sort of a present that he's going to find out.
Yeah,
and we speculated that maybe it was Angela
baby
being
stuff.
Pregnant. So. Maybe it is possible that Dr. Manhattan is capable of reproducing.
Yeah.
Maybe she was pregnant, but the 7th Cavalry shot her in the abdomen.
Right in the baby.
Killed the baby, and now she can't carry babies, and that's why she adopted. But so perhaps, yeah, Dr. Manhattan is capable of having children. So it is Lady True. I don't know. I mean, that would imply that he had relations with her mother in Vietnam.
Which is also possible. Like maybe he's like, saw the comedian was doing it. He's like, hey, maybe I'll try that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't want to keep him, you can just shoot him.
It begs the question of what, it gets into the logistics of Dr. Manhattan having sex. It's a big.
Is it? Because we've seen him do it in the comic book.
We know that he's pleased Laurie.
He gives a one-man gangbang to Laurie.
He certainly knows how to please a Laurie, but we don't know that he actually, the traditional
if it would work
sex of yes.
Well, I mean, I think there's no reason to assume that it wouldn't. It seems like he created this body that can perform all the other functions of a human body.
Sure.
Why wouldn't he be able to functionally reproduce? Like he's got control over matter. Why would he be? He could probably control his own level of impetus or of potent or of virility, basically.
Would you inherit some powers in that case?
So that's a trickier question because like the powers he has aren't like DNA. It's not like he's a mutant from X-Men. he's physically fundamentally changed, like down to the quarks, you know? So
to the quarks?
Quarks?
Quarks, yes.
Quarks, yes. The parts of subatomic particles and whatnot.
That Dr. Manhattan loves talking about.
Yeah. So his favorite little things. So I guess like you have to wonder like how heredity would work with a change like that, you know?
What kind of trauma would that pass on to your progeny?
You know, that's also kind of interesting because with Dr. Manhattan having, you know, the knowledge of both past and future, he kind of has the whole spectrum of trauma with him all the time. Yeah. In a way, you know? So in this show that's all about, you know, experiencing the past kind of in a circuitous way and inheriting trauma through all these different, you know, pressures. Mm-hmm. Dr. Manhattan is kind of a weird kink in that formula because, you know, he kind of perpetuates trauma and is also like he says himself, he's the puppet who can see the strings. He has really no ability to change his own actions or outcomes. Yeah. For the most part, but you just kind of, man, you can't really talk about Dr. Manhattan without starting to sound kind of rambly after a while. Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot of these theories.
It's a whole different, he's just a whole different take on experiencing anything. Yeah. Being this simultaneous godlike being, you know?
So yeah, it's possible, I guess, as far as we know, that he is able to reproduce.
Yeah, long story short, we don't know if he can reproduce or not. I probably can.
I did notice that there were some hints that Dr. Manhattan may be the father. Yeah. Yeah.
So
time will tell.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I think Ozzy and Dr. Manhattan are my tops.
You want to put some money on it or something? Should we put some stakes on this little situation?
Some stakes?
Yeah.
Put them on the grill?
If it turns out that that Ozymandias is Lady True's
a gentleman's
father.
Wager.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then what?
Oh man. I guess we'll have to think about that. Let's give it some thought.
Our episodes right now, man, we should put it down so that next episode, when we find out the truth, possibly.
Oh, that's a good point.
We'd have to be like, aha, now you owe me a steak.
So the question,
steak dinner.
Or what's the wager? Is it between Ozzy and Dr. Manhattan?
Yes. And then
your team Dr. Manhattan?
If it's a third party, then, you know, I guess we have
the comedian.
Neither of us wins.
Been floated out there, but I really don't see that happening because she said he's coming.
I agree.
So that tells me, I mean, yeah, she could clone him theoretically, but I don't think they'd introduced that in the last few episodes.
I don't think so.
So we do know that Dr. Manhattan has been kind of in hiding this whole time, and Ozzy's been here the whole time. So either of them are great candidates.
Yes. Probably the best candidates.
Ozzy makes a lot of sense because she's also very similar to him. Mm-hmm. She's got his genius level intellect, his... I don't know if he had trillions, but she's certainly got... They both got a lot of money.
Both come from money.
A lot of money. Yeah. I guess I'm going to be Team Ozzy. You can be Team John.
Okay.
Listeners at home, what do you think? Who is Lady True's father?
Should we put a poll on Twitter? Just be like, which do you think is more likely to be Lady True's father, Ozymandias or Dr. Manhattan?
We could be the first people in the world to do that poll.
Could be.
Possibly. Let's do it. We're going to do it. What else? Where were we? We went so off topic.
You know what?
On topic, but off topic at the same time.
It's all the same topic. So basically the next scene we're at is where after the Ozzy scene, we're back at Lady True's place.
Yes, where she's giving her TED Talk.
And yeah, she's giving her talk about the activation of the clock. And Angela takes this opportunity to follow the hose down to the next room.
Yes. We do find
out. No. This is before the TED Talk.
Yeah, did I jump ahead?
Yeah, this is where,
right.
The first time she tries to open the room and it turns red because she doesn't have the right fingerprints.
You're right.
Lady True's like, hey, you hungry?
Like, you hungry? Doesn't even acknowledge that she's trying to break into the other room. She's just like, hey.
Well, like, it doesn't matter. The door's locked.
Yeah, right. Little does she know, a simple rock.
The one flaw in her design.
So, yes, they go to this nice scene where they're enjoying a nice feast in the vivarium.
Mm-hmm.
And she reveals that she's got a secret plan to save humanity.
Yes.
And Angela's not.
It begins in Tulsa.
She's a little skeptical of this.
Yeah, so Angela says, I can't tell if you're joking, which is a callback to a line from the comic book where Ozymandias can't tell if the comedian's joking. And so Lady True says, of course you can. Just like, you know, like Lady True knows that Angela is not, you know, she's playing coy or whatever.
So you're saying the comedian is True's father? I'm
saying there's evidence all over the place. There's clues.
Do you think that Lady True's mother got freaky with all three of them simultaneously? And this is a Mamma Mia situation.
Oh, my God.
Where we don't know who the father is.
Are we going to have to get Maury on here?
I think so.
Maury Povich.
God, that would be great. Okay. Sorry, back on topic. And then, yeah, True reveals that she knows all about Cal's car accident and that amnesia like that almost never exists outside of soap operas.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think Lady True is kind of playing coy here.
Yeah.
And being like, sort of planting the seed that Cal's story is not 100% legit. And so it also raises the question, as Angela asks, like, how does she know all this about Cal? And she responds that Will told her, but like, how does Will know all this about Cal? I mean, there's a lot that Will knows that it seems like he shouldn't be able to know. Almost like he's got some kind of psychic powers.
It's possible. What we do know is
I'm going to keep driving home this Will's a psychic
thing. We know that Will has a mind control device.
A flashlight, yes.
And you can do quite a bit with that.
But you can't read people's minds with it.
You can
I think he can read people's minds.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Read people. Do you think he's capable of sniffing out racism?
Like it smells like bleach?
Smells like bleach?
I mean, it seems like when he's first talking to Angela in the bait cave, and she asks him how he did it, the first thing he says before he says that he's like maybe he's Dr. Manhattan, he says he has psychic powers, which is we know is like half true because he used the flashlight to do it to control Crawford's mind, but he does come out and say like, I've got psychic powers. Like maybe at this time he's also reading Angela's mind. He knows the whole story about Cal.
You do learn that a lot of what he said is a lot more true than you originally thought.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is kind of something I love about shows like this.
Good.
Yeah. Where like they kind of lay it out in front of you, but you really don't know what to believe until later.
And then Angela kind of gets defensive and starts putting True on the spot, and she's like, well, you know, what are you pumping into your daughter? What nostalgia is she receiving?
So yeah, True takes this opportunity to lay a card on the table.
Get it all out there. Well, that's not my daughter.
You idiot.
And she kind of gets this, like, this grin on her face. Like, she's like, oh, God, I'm so glad I get to talk about this.
So I cloned my mom, harvested her memories, and I'm drip feeding them to her so that they don't cause her head to explode.
God, how many clones do you think she went through before she realized that the heads explode if you give them too much information at one time?
I also think it's interesting how she I just lost my train of thought. Right. It's going to come back to me in like 10 seconds.
Well, we'll wait.
We don't have to wait. 10 seconds of silence. Okay. So I was going to bring up, sorry.
Go ahead.
Like I said, 10 seconds.
We're back. I don't think it was 10, but yes, go ahead.
Like she brings up kind of subtly the nature versus nurture thing. Like she has a clone of her mom, but she wouldn't be her mom without her experiences. Sure. So you need kind of both, the genes and the memories to make the person. You need their trauma because it informs who they are, just as all these characters' trauma informs who they are. So, you know, making a clone of John Osterman in a lake or whatever isn't enough to get you a new Dr. Manhattan. Same way that like making a clone of Beyond Mai is not going to give you the same pachyderm mom. You need to, you know, give her the memories of how her village died, how was burned, how, you know, how she struggled through all these things, because that is as much a part of who you are and who you become as anything else.
I like that. and Lady True mentions that she's about to fulfill her life's purpose, life's work.
Mm-hmm.
And
she wants her parents
why
there.
wouldn't she want her parents there? And then Angela's like, your father's coming too? Yes, he's coming.
Yeah, so that's definitely a big hint. And it could mean Dr. Manhattan, like if the 7th Cavalry is trying to capture Dr. Manhattan and Lady True's trying to stop that, then maybe she's trying to bring Dr. Manhattan to her. If Dr. Manhattan's her father, that would make sense.
It's possible.
Yeah, that would fit with that.
Yeah.
But then it's also possible that Ozzy
highly possible that Ozzy will be there as well. Yes.
He's still got another year to figure out his situation and make it back to Earth.
Mamma Mia.
Before they're like, so.
By the way, are you familiar with Mamma Mia? Do you appreciate my joke?
That's ABBA, right? The song.
I mean,
but it's also a movie
they've got like
Pierce
the soundtrack
Brosnan.
of ABBA, but yeah, the premise is that the mother, I guess she had multiple lovers, and she's not entirely sure who the father is.
A loose woman.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, so she doesn't know, and anyway, 3 suitors. So it's funny. Guys, back me up. It's funny.
I mean, yeah, I like right. You had guessed. I'm not very familiar with Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia.
I don't think I'm in the demographic for that one.
Fair enough. Anything else we want to talk about with that scene? I'm craving some calamari.
I know. I mean, I think the only the next thing that kind of stuck out to me is Angela asks her point blank, "What does the clock do?"
And she says,
and she point blank also responds that she's not going to tell her. Just no.
Not the typical. It tells time,
or not like a typical misdirect. Like it's kind of this acknowledgement that it does something, but I'm not going to tell you what.
Right.
You're just going to have to wait and find out. Wait 4 hours and find out.
Mm-hmm. So then we
next we see the eye of the Cyclops.
So I want to talk about that logo.
Yeah,
I guess
it's pretty cool looking.
It's cool looking.
It'd make a good tattoo, you know.
Let's do it. Should we do it? A couple more drinks in, and we'll get some Cyclops tattoos.
Dude, I'm down.
Would that then label us as white supremacists? I don't know if I want to identify with that.
No, because it's not real.
This is true. It's just really hard being a white man in America today.
Especially if you get tattoos that are associated with the white supremacy group from a TV show.
No, but the eye, so the Cyclops eye, which we've seen, but they've also got red in the background, which I think is interesting because they've also got the Dr. Manhattan circle with the dot at the top.
Absolutely.
Dr. Manhattan's color is blue. They've got red.
Like an anti-Manhattan.
Like a red. Yeah.
Yeah. So... yeah, and this is kind of a thing that you see a lot in superhero comics, like color scheming like this way. So, like the enemy of the Green Lantern is yellow.
Yep.
And like, the enemy of, Batman who wears like black and gray is all the colorful Joker, with purple and white and green and red. So like, color scheming, the making a color juxtaposition is kind of a cool way to sort of show the contrast. So I wonder if Joe Keane goes through with his plan to become a blue one as opposed to a white one. What if he comes out red? Like, what if he doesn't actually come out blue?
That's originally because way back when we heard in the some news reporter was asking about the Russians working on an intrinsic field generator or whatever.
The Reds.
The Reds, right. So I'm like, oh man, what if we get a red Dr. Manhattan?
And here's okay, I just had a vision. What if last episode Joe Keane emerges from a chamber as a glowing red being and just starts destroying stuff with his powers.
Sure.
Just marching through Tulsa and tank Akira, tank shells are bouncing off of him and stuff. And you see Red Scare confront, he comes up to him and he sees him and he's like his face just turns to an expression of horror.
Yeah.
And he's Red Scare, scared of the red Manhattan.
Ooh, there you go.
Visual play on words.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
We also do have a lot of the red, white, and blue.
Definitely comes up a lot.
We've got blue already. Maybe we'll get a red.
Plenty of whites.
Lots of whites. Who knows?
Yeah. So and it is funny how much that is brought up, both in the show and the Peteypedia files.
The red, white, and blue. Yeah.
How the blue always represents Dr. Manhattan. The red, I guess violence.
Yeah.
And the white always represents white supremacy, racism, that whole thing. It fits really well. It's almost like they did that on purpose.
Do you think? Do you think that dawned on them, or was it just
these writers?
Yeah,
Damon Lindelof, you mad genius.
It's just coincidence. So yeah, we're in the 7th Cavalry hideout, formerly J.C. Penney's, and Joe Keane basically reveals that he wants to become a Dr. Manhattan type.
Yeah, so he's like trying to launch into
talking about how hard it is being a white guy.
He's trying to launch into his supervillain monologue.
Mm-hmm. And Laurie's just not letting him.
Just not having. Like, Laurie been through this before. Who knows how many times, you know? Not including the time Ozymandias did it. At Karnak.
Sure.
And so she's just like, she's tired. This is silly. She's tired of the silliness.
Yeah.
Just do your thing. I'm in a chair. Like, what am I going to do? Just
so tired.
Press your stupid button. But yeah, then it definitely strikes a nerve when he tells her that, like, it's going to be Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah. Of all people.
The guy who left you behind.
Yeah.
As he has a pattern of doing, once his girlfriends age out. It's one of the pitfalls of immortality. I don't think a lot of people consider.
Yeah. I think Angela's getting dangerously close to being aged out. It's been they've been together for some time, I guess.
Maybe it's to her advantage that he has no memory of being Dr. Manhattan, so that it's like he's willing to stay with her longer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Until she has to bash his head in with a hammer. And
then he just comes to the sudden realization, oh my God, you're old. I need to get a young...
I remember the future now.
What am I doing here? Back to Mars. So yeah, now we get to Lady True doing her TED Talk.
Yes.
And she mentions that she
bought MIT.
What was it, 14 when she graduated MIT, and then 2 years later,
4 years later.
4 years later. She mentioned that she had the first microfusion spacecraft. Do we think that's
She's a regular relevant? Elon Musk.
Certainly. Do you think he's her father?
Ooh. I don't know if the timeline really works out. How old is Elon?
We don't know.
We don't know.
No one knows.
No one knows how old Elon is.
Mentions that nostalgia was a failure because people just wanted to relive their worst
I do think
memories.
It's interesting how she blames nostalgia's failure on everyone else. Everyone except herself,
Yeah.
Like everybody, like, I gave them something, a tool to overcome their trauma and transform and transcend and become perfect people or whatever. And they just wanted to live in the past. But I mean, isn't that kind of the obvious result of doing something like that?
Not just the past, though. Live the most traumatic experiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I don't know if I would relate to. I would probably only I would eliminate the negative and just focus on the positive. I would just relive my birthday where I got Nintendo 64 for the first time.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think the idea is that, like, people can't let go of their trauma. Like,
it's gone.
Looking Glass couldn't throw away his alarm system,
Yes.
His identity was, I think the thing is that when your identity is built on
kind of
something traumatic, when it defines you, it's hard to let go of because then you don't know who you are. And I think Lady True is trying to get at that once you reach that point, you have the freedom to decide who you are. You don't have to be defined by your suffering, but that's too frightening a prospect for most people. And so
it almost seems like that's her grand plan is to get people to that state. Instead of an empathy bomb that makes people feel trauma, it's an amnesia bomb. That's kind of what I'm getting at, because she mentions that people
amnesia.
Are so burdened with their trauma they can't move on. So what if this just erases all the trauma? And then they're basically just
so nobody has any knowledge of racism or
no hate.
Nobody has any concept of past transgressions. That it really a reset button. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting idea.
Could be.
If
I was an evil or good trillionaire. If I was a trillionaire.
If I was a morally ambiguous trillionaire.
Side of the spectrum. Basically what I said there, possibly erase the trauma.
I also like her, paraphrasing of the poem.
Oh, Ozymandias poem.
How she says, countless generations will gaze on our mighty work and without despair acknowledge something. And it sounds like she says like a miracle has happened or something. Definitely a callback to Ozymandias as well. And as her character often does.
Her probable father, Ozymandias. Yep.
Possible.
And then Angela, as you're hearing her talk, Angela's breaking into the room where she suspects her grandfather is.
Yes.
And, thwarted by the hand paint, whatever that.
Right. Yeah. Which all you need is to shoot it
just
or something.
Smash it.
Yeah. And it opens right up.
Seems like a big design flaw. Do you think Wilson, the people developed the trapdoor,
they also designed her hand scanner locking mechanism?
They're probably not going to be in business much longer. So she goes in there and can we just talk about the giant elephant in the room?
Elephant in the room, yes.
Yeah.
Turns out that the cure for nostalgia is to filter your fluid through an elephant, which kind of reminds me. Are you familiar with the story of The Giver at all?
I don't know.
They did a movie with Jeff Bridges a few years ago. It's a short novel about basically society kind of forgoes their memories, their trauma, their suffering, and all that. And there's one person in society who experiences all these memories and history and stuff.
Oh, geez.
And that person's called the Giver. So, like, what the elephant made me think of is that, like, oh, they're kind of using this elephant as their sort of dumping ground for suffering and trauma, like making it the giver, making it
like the whipping boy.
Making it sort of the scapegoat of all their.
It's kind of what I was thinking as well. And then I felt bad for the elephant. Yeah.
I mean, I think because
he'll never be able to
elephants
forget.
are highly like empathetic creatures. And
Do
so
we know this? Is that a fact?
Oh yeah. And so like making this elephant sort of flush out all these traumatic memories from other people, they probably just like pile up in its huge elephant brain.
And then we turn that elephant into a sociopathic monster who then becomes Dr. Manhattan. So we get the giant elephant. I think we can assume that that's the natural host attached to Angela.
Yes.
And, she needed some cortex fluid?
Cerebral
spinal fluid.
Yes.
Why not choose an elephant with the biggest brain probably on the planet next to a blue whale? Maybe they should have had a blue whale.
That would have been a little harder to keep it to get a hold of and keep in the middle of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
It would have been difficult, but not impossible for a trillionaire.
$1 trillion could probably do it.
I think so. And then so she sees the elephant, realizes it's not her grandfather, and she unplugs. And then when she does, alarms start going off, and she
passes out,
pushed back into another little flashback vision. And she's back in Saigon.
Scrubbing floors. And then she meets her grandma, June.
Singing It's a Hard Knock Life. June comes in there. And then what do we call the evil orphanage woman?
Did we have a name for her?
No. I don't know.
Okay.
Just evil.
Just evil. The grumpy...
evil woman.
Orphan master.
Sister...
The game warden.
The game warden. June gets to finally meet Angela. She takes her to Burgers and Borscht.
Yes.
My favorite chain restaurant in
Sounds
Saigon.
Pretty good. I don't know.
What is borscht?
It's like a Russian soup.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think so.
I've heard of a borscht burger. How do you make a borscht burger?
I don't know.
Maybe that's not even real.
Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm basing it on a Wonder Woman cartoon I watched as a child.
Wow.
Yeah. They had borscht burgers.
Can you distill that memory into pill form so that I can experience it?
I'll have to do that later. Yeah.
All right. Sweet.
We'll do that post-podcast. I like that when they get these flashbacks is with June. Flashbacks is plural.
Yep.
We kind of intertwine Angela's own flashback of June with Will's flashback of June. It's almost like she's kind of merging those two, piecing it all together and getting the full picture of who June is.
Yeah,
and she's getting a whole new perspective on it. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely, like, this whole time she's been flashing back, that's kind of been happening.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely. She as her child version is getting to know who June is, Angela also gets to know who June is from the perspective of Hooded Justice.
Yeah.
About whom June has trouble talking, because
as soon as asks do I have a grandpa? And she just changes the subject.
Change it straight to Sister Night. Oh,
Sister Night.
This movie. Great movie. We'll watch it as soon as we get back to Tulsa.
I think she dropped an F-bomb too. So she's, I don't.
She said did she say
None with a motherfucking gun? Yeah.
Oh, she said you don't fuck with Sister Night.
You don't fuck with Sister Night.
Yep.
Now, I have not heard my grandma utter an F-bomb in all the years I've known her.
Your grandma is less colorful than mine.
Cool.
Sir.
Yeah. That's really all I had on that scene. I think like while they're talking and while Angela pulls out the badge and tells June she's going to be a police officer. Oh yeah, good call. Yeah.
June, totally responds to that, sees like history repeating itself. Totally. She's like, of course you are. You are.
Yeah, I like that.
Your grandfather did it. Your father did it. Now you're doing it because, the cycle repeats itself.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of like even like strikes a bit of worry in June because it's like.
Then she says, what else you got in that backpack?
Yeah.
And then she busts out.
She's trying to pull her back to Tulsa, pull her away from this lifestyle to where she can have a normal life.
But yeah, so like you said, so first she sees the police badge and she asks what else you have, and then she busts out the Sister Night. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like choosing between the two. You got the badge and then the mass vigilante light, combining them. Yeah. Which is where we are now.
Yep. She winds up smashing those two objects together, and the result is Angela Abar's Sister Night. Yes, like mixing burgers and borscht.
So I think that we can assume that that's kind of where Angela got the inspiration. She's always identified with that Sister Night character,
even though she's never seen the movie. And like
quite possibly still hasn't.
How poignant of a point is it too that she mentions to little Angela like, why do you like this one? She asks her, why do you like this one? And Angela says she looks like me. Yeah. And she's like, I guess she does look like you. Probably not a lot of people in Saigon who look like you. And I feel like that's kind of a nod to like, basically the experience that, African-American people have not seeing themselves reflected in media very often.
Yeah, right.
And so
most superheroes are not African-American.
Why wouldn't you gravitate towards what few media there is?
Yeah. It was either that
you can relate to that.
Was it Silk Spectre's porno? So I'm glad she chose the Sister Night. Could have been a much different.
I mean, Sister Angela Night might have some adult situations.
We don't. Yeah. Well, okay. So Sister Night is the nun with the gun. Mm-hmm. A nun is essentially married to God.
Yeah. And how about that?
Angela is married to a god.
Yeah, definitely. I like that.
I'm sure it was unintentional, but
foreshadowing that you don't realize is foreshadowing until later,
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So then we get that scene with June and Angela, and then Angela is going to take her back to Tulsa, and she buckles her into the taxi. What does she say? Precious cargo. Yeah. Angela's got a little smile on her face. And
then she passes the fuck out. Yeah. And so Angela, almost like without even being surprised, is just like, well, there goes another one.
This is my life. Back to the orphanage.
So how do you like all these like actors from DC movies showing up in this show? So we've got
we got Black Manta.
Jeremy Irons played Alfred.
Oh, you're right. He was Alfred.
Yaya. Mm-hmm. He played Black Manta in Aquaman.
Yep.
And now the girl who plays Angela was in Shazam.
Regina King was in Shazam?
No, the young Angela.
Oh, young Angela. Oh, you're right. Okay.
Yep. So kind of cool, I guess. Like, whatever you might think about how all the DC movies are going, there's this interesting little, at least meta continuity with Watchmen being a DC property and these actors.
Fun fact is that Jeremy Irons actually has a mustache in real life that they ended up using CGI in Watchmen. You couldn't even tell he had it.
It's a sensitive topic, sir.
And June has the heart attack again. Poor June.
A real one this time.
She shouldn't have gone to borscht burgers and borscht after having a heart attack.
Maybe she should have gone to Gunga Diner instead.
Get a salad or something. I don't know. I did find it interesting that as she passed out, the taxi cab driver's looking for help, and there's a police officer not even facing her who's just waving along traffic, like the people walking across the street.
So yeah,
doesn't even register that someone had a heart attack behind him. There's definitely a theme of the police officers aren't really about the protecting and serving in this world. You know, they have their own interests that they serve. Yeah, and that doesn't always align with what the what on paper their job title is supposed to be. I like it. Good analysis. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's about that scene. And then Angela wakes up in Elephant Room. With alarms blaring. And starts poking around. She's like, okay, I got to figure out what's going on with Lady True. So she goes to the elevator. Goes to floor 0. Level 0. That's where I would go if I'm looking for answers. And finds the globe. So we mentioned in our Just a Sip episode that this room reminded us of Cerebro. Yes. From X-Men. Which is like, the more I think about it, the more it kind of like is true on a bunch of levels. Like, because like Cerebro, like Professor X in there, he gets, information messages from to hear people all over the world. Yeah. And so, yeah, there's this globe that reveals the messages everyone has given to the Manhattan booths. Yes. In one of them, which Angela listens to, is a woman speaking Spanish saying that, she has cancer in her cerebro, in her brain. Oh my she gosh. Says the word. Cerebro. Oh yeah, she actually said the word cerebro in I feel like that's kind of an Easter egg too, right? For sure. Nice. So yeah, I do like how they like to slip those little things in there. It's nice that speaking Spanish comes in handy. Every once in a while, yes. Fantastic. The most widely spoken language. Muy bueno. Muy bien. What else do we see? So when Angela sees Lori in the booth, I noticed that she's got kind of a scowl on her face looking at Lori. But she also kind of doesn't react all that much. She's just like kind of, after it's done, she kind of moves on because it looked like she cut it off, like she didn't want to hear it. I think she, knowing that, because we know that Angela knows that Cal is Dr. Manhattan. Right. So Angela knows that Lori is Cal's ex. So it stands to reason that she's got, But I also feel like she's almost got like this that puts her in a position like kind of above Lori in a way. Like, oh, like Lori's in here in this booth trying to talk to her ex who I'm currently with. Right. It's like, sorry, sucker. Like, he's with me now. Like all of a sudden, like Lori, or at least Angela, I feel like might feel this bit of, this greater confidence in seeing something like that. Because it's Lori in a moment of weakness, right? Sure. Because it's supposed to be this private conversation that she's desperately hoping will reach Dr. Manhattan. But Angela is sitting here knowing that it's not that everything Lori wants, Angela basically has. Yeah. In a way, in a weird, yeah. Like it's not a perfect situation, but at least, when Lori had seemed like she'd had, like she'd had Angela's number this whole time. Yep. Now the tables kind of turned. Tables have turned. Mm-hmm. I like it. How the turntables. Then True shows up and looks especially menacing in the dark light. Yeah, how about that? Like dark, beady eyes. Very menacing, reflection. Yes. Yeah. She reveals that Dr. Manhattan has these poor people who are praying and hoping that it'll come down from the heavens to save them, and he never does because he's not listening. Mm-hmm. And then she reveals that he's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And, you watch Angela's reaction, and she's just keeping it together. Yes, Angela definitely knows how to kind of redirect this situation. She's really good at it. Because she then suppressing. She immediately refers to the fact that Will brought up the same thing. So you gave my grandfather that idea. Yeah, so actually, he gave it to me. Mm-hmm. So, he came to her for her help. Yeah, this little conversation is the one that I'm really trying to decode the most because so Lady True says to Angela, like, are we done fucking around? Yeah. Are we going to just be honest with each other? Which of course means that Lady True's not being honest right now. So I'm trying to decipher what
her motivation is. The first time I saw this, I'm like, okay, so she's trying to goad Angela into going to Cal and doing the whole thing, which she does, like it works.
Right. Like clockwork.
But then, so I wonder if Lady True's working against the 7th Cavalry and has like a separate plan, which if she's working with Will, it seems like that would have to be the case because Will's obviously anti-7th Cavalry because he killed Judd Crawford.
Yep.
Then why does she need Dr. Manhattan? Does her plan involve Dr. Manhattan being revealed the same way the 7th Cavalry's plan does? It's like they're both converging on the same event, right? Lady True sends Angela home to wake up Dr. Manhattan. The 7th K is waiting there for that to happen too. So, and she even says it's going to be less than an hour. They're going to capture Dr. Manhattan. And Angela's like, holy shit, I have to wake him. I guess maybe Angela's afraid that they're going to capture her while he's in Cal form and he won't have the power to help himself. Yeah. But it seems like they actually need him to become to hatch in order for it to happen. I mean, which is
interesting. You'd think they could just grab Cal, you know? Yeah.
So Angela's the only one who knows how to wake him up.
A hammer to the head.
It turns out it's pretty simple. Yeah. But why each party needs this to happen? It's just, I just need to see the next episode to see what happens. I need to understand this plan. And I don't get it yet. There's not enough pieces to the puzzle, at least not that I can see.
Agreed. Yes. We don't know what's going on. We do know that True knew when the Clark farm, when that space object was going to fall. So True seems to have some sort of a foresight. Yeah,
she's able to predict certain things.
But like you said, if she knew that the 7th Cavalry was coming for Cal, you'd think that they could very easily just divert that instead of playing into it, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think whatever it is she's tapped into, this future sight or whatever, similar to the way it works for Dr. Manhattan, where you can see the future, but you can't change it.
Yep.
You know, there's the events are going to play out. So you just kind of make them unfold as they will. It's still like maybe the 7th Cavalry is trying to do their thing and Lady True knows all about it and is not working with them, but wants to let them do their step so that she can step in and do something else. You know, maybe she's riding the 7th Cavalry's
I could see that
efforts.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's really just speculation. Like it could go all kinds of different ways.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
It is very curious that 7th Cavalry has so much True technology. Mm-hmm. Like if it was a thing, then I'd be like, okay, they stole it, but they have a lot.
Yeah.
So it's very curious.
Yeah, for sure.
She reveals that in less than an hour, the 7th Cavalry is going to kill Dr. Manhattan and then become him. Mm-hmm. And then she also says that Angela never asked who Dr. Manhattan is.
Yeah.
So it implies that she knows exactly who he is.
Right.
Right.
Which, Angela's response to that is kind of perfect because
silence.
Because like if Lady True knows who it is and she says it's Cal, then Angela needs to get the fuck out of there like immediately so that she can, so she doesn't give Lady True the chance to give the dramatic reveal and possibly, prevent Angela from getting to Cal. She just needs to go. And she also doesn't play her hand at all that she knows it's Cal.
Right.
Except so far as to say that if True knows that it's Cal, then True knows that Angela knows it's Cal. I don't know. It's what's going to happen, man?
It's hammer time.
It is hammer time.
We cut. Then Angela leaves the elevator, just staring True down the whole time. Doesn't say a word. Mm-hmm. It's pretty badass.
Yeah, totally.
Just once, I want to go into an elevator, stare somebody down, don't even break eye contact right? Until the elevator closes. So she goes out, she's driving out, and it's funny that the security guard just lets her go willy-nilly. You see like the little barricade, right?
It lowers like down, immediately, yeah.
Like, no problem. But then you got Pirate Jenny and
Lady
Red
True's
Scare.
letting Angela leave. I think that's an important... That's what kind of first tipped me off that she might be working with the 7th Cavalry, is that she really does not do anything to stop Angela. in spite of the fact that she's in the middle of her treatment, or all these things.
I mean, it's one of those, it's like the true, like she knows what's going to happen, but she can't interfere. So she's just going to watch as it unfolds because she's got the Millennium Clock, I think, is helping her kind of tell time.
Maybe. Yeah.
Tell what's going to happen.
Right.
So then, Red Scare tries to barricade. I don't know why he didn't see this happening. Red Scare's
eating a sandwich.
With lettuce.
So we've been talking about a salad this whole time. What if it's actually a sandwich?
You're right. White bread.
Egg.
Was it white bread? Or was it wheat?
Egg. I don't know. I don't think we knew the type of bread.
I'm going to go with white.
Why? Because the 7th Cavalry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because racism.
Yeah. But yeah, it looked like it had lettuce on it. So
I think 4 out of 5 racists prefer white bread, or maybe all of them.
That might be a 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
Or maybe they all closet like, wheat or even like marble rye bread.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't say that.
Rorschach would like the marble rye, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite type of bread, everybody at home? I want to know. Sourdough? I like sourdough. I like Italian, actually.
Any honey wheat fans out there?
Honey
wheat's pretty good.
What about pretzel bun?
Pretzel bun is great, yeah. With like a ham and cheese sandwich on a pretzel bun.
Back to the episode. So Red Scare tries to block her. She drives through. Obviously, we all saw that coming. I don't know why he didn't see. He's a bad detective.
Yeah.
Always eating. I love that right after we hear that Dr. Manhattan's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we see Red Scare eating, and Pirate Jen is like, "Why are you always hungry?" It's almost like maybe he's Dr. Manhattan. Nope.
Nah. Pretty unlikely.
So then, Angela drives home, and as she approaches her home, we see that the 7th Cavalry is staking out.
Just waiting for somebody to turn blue inside, somebody to blue themselves.
It is all just a vast and insidious conspiracy.
So Cal's on the couch passed out with a book.
What book was that?
Ernest Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Interesting.
As distinct from Metallica's For Whom the Bell Tolls.
I love that you know that.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah, everybody. So tell me, why would that be a significant book for him to be reading?
Oh man, honestly, I wish I knew more about
I know the bullet points just because
it's about like the Spanish Civil War.
There's a lot, and I've never read it. I'm not going to pretend I have, but
I will.
In tying in with the storyline, essentially, spoiler alert, it's the story of a man who knows he's going to die, and he falls in love. So how appropriate that.
Indeed, because
we hear about Dr. Manhattan perhaps dying in an hour.
Yeah, logically, you'd have to know that you'd have to assume that Dr. Manhattan, experiencing all of time simultaneously, knows how he's going to die.
Sure, he could have foreseen this, and and
knows that there's no avoiding it because he's Dr. Manhattan for some reason.
Although, he could just go to Europa. No one's going to get him there.
Sure, but then what would be the point of his existence? I think he's trying to connect with humanity, right? So in the comic book, we see Dr. Manhattan spends like the whole time, we see through his relationships how he diverges from humanity, how he becomes less human.
Yep.
And I feel like, and that culminates with him leaving the galaxy to go create life of his own.
Yep.
Maybe this show is going to show him coming back and reconnecting with humanity, like something we might not have thought was possible, but maybe
seems to be the case.
The only way he can really do that is to sort of find somebody else to connect to, and then give up on his own identity as Dr. Manhattan, give up his memories and
create
and
this
all that
fictitious accident, become Cal Abar,
and because maybe being an immortal being on Europa is not as worthwhile as being somebody who's going to die but gets to be with Angela Abar,
So here's a good question. Does Cal age with Angela, or is he the same as when he first met her?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think he's basically just got a functioning human body at this point, right? Like
an idealized version of a human body. I wouldn't mind having that body.
Still just a fully human form that he's created and adopted. So I would assume that he does age in this form.
What happens when Cal dies?
Well, we kind of see what happens. Angela digs a ring out of his head, the emblem out of his forehead, and then we see the blue glow on her face, sort of like how we saw the blue glow on Laurie's face when she opened the briefcase.
Oh.
But in this case, so
there was a giant blue dildo inside of Cal the whole time?
Not a dildo, the real deal.
Oh my God.
The actual
giant blue penis.
Manhattan dong. So yeah, it sort of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where she sees Laurie's prayer, and is, Laurie's the one left behind. Angela's got the real thing now. Laurie can open the case, and when she sees the blue light, it's, just a toy.
Yeah.
But when Angela sees the blue light, it's the real thing. It's Dr. Manhattan himself. So I feel like that theme is kind of.
So Dr. Manhattan has been hiding hiding in the closet, and that's where they like to
That is where they like to go.
Make love in the closet. It all makes sense now.
Well, I mean, when you've got a shotgun in your headboard, you kind of need to be careful.
You gotta be careful. Accidents happen.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
You wouldn't want it to go off early.
Wouldn't it be funny if they learned that lesson the hard way?
Like, this isn't the first time Cal has died and then become Dr. Manhattan and be like, oh, better turn back into Cal because we weren't supposed to do it
like
yet.
A Venture Brothers situation. Like clone dying. Okay. So yeah, then we...
maybe that's what happened on the White Knight. Cal got shot.
Yeah.
Dr. Manhattan and was like, oops, better undo that. We're a little early.
Yeah. I mean, that it's possible because that would explain how.
Yeah, maybe Cal gets shot by the second cavalryman who's like holding a shotgun to Laurie, and then Dr. Manhattan walks around the corner and disintegrates the dude, which is why there's no mention of a second gunman. Ooh. And then he's like, all right, now.
But then who was that second gunman?
Doesn't matter.
So that one, anonymous, so you're saying, okay.
Yeah, an anonymous cavalryman. But then Cal's like, okay, not supposed to be Manhattan yet, so let's go ahead and rewind and turn back into his not so final form. Yeah. That's a huge stretch and a lot of speculation, but it's
but this is Watchmen after all.
We're having fun. So, yeah. We're having fun, ladies and gentlemen.
I like it. So then we get the hammer scene. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's a special hammer, or is this just a everyday hammer?
If it was a special hammer, she probably wouldn't have had to go through like 6 drawers to find it.
Well, if it was a special hammer, she would have to, because she's looking for that specific hammer.
No, because like she would know it. She would have a place. If it's a special hammer, she would have a place for it. Like in event of, Dr. Manhattan emergency, break glass and use the magic hammer. No, I think she just, anything that will open his head is what she wants.
Well, she does have a shotgun in her headboard.
Not anymore.
That's true. And then as the episode ends, we get her smashing his head over the cover of David Bowie's Life on Mars. Yeah. Which I think is funny because we're all supposed to assume he's on Mars.
Right.
He's not.
Nope, not anymore. And so, she digs into his forehead and pulls out a little metal, magnetic version of his emblem, sort of like the earrings that he gives to Janie Slater in the comic book, which look like the emblem as well.
He really likes that emblem. The boys of marketing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's almost like he had some sort of an implant that cut off his god powers. Yeah. Somehow.
Uh-huh. And like his memories, or maybe like having that in there, like contained his Manhattanness in like a real localized spot so that he could be just a person.
So good.
Yeah.
Bravo. I did not see that coming. I had read some theories of Cal being Dr. Manhattan.
Sure, but
I've also read other theories of other people being Dr. Manhattan.
I think in one of our first episodes way back before the show started, I mentioned that the one thing I wanted from the show was to be surprised.
Yes, you did.
And
success?
Definitely. Everything, even the things you predict still come about in a surprising way, Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have predicted that, even if Dr. Manhattan was disguised as Cal, I wouldn't have anticipated that he also erased his own memories or
that Angela was fully aware the entire time.
And had to bust his skull open to get him out,
Mm-hmm. And that's it. I guess Peteypedia.
Yes.
Let's dig in.
Kind of a brief one this week.
We've got 2 Peteypedia files. If you're unfamiliar, Peteypedia is some supplemental material that HBO releases online that gives a little more insight to the world.
In the Watchmen world, it's basically the whole internet.
Yes.
But in our world, it's like the smallest part of the internet.
So are we to assume in the Watchmen world that Peteypedia is a URL, that it's the only URL? It's one of the few.
One of the few, I think, which I think is why, like, it's, I think I mentioned this before, that the website design is designed like somebody
totally. Like an old
who hasn't been designing websites.
Sure. It's very
in the modern world.
primitive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the first one we get is Memo, the origin story of Sister Night.
Yes. So yeah, it's Petey basically talking about that film, the Sister Night movie.
Yep.
Which, so does it mention like what led him to that movie?
I think he's just exploring the origin of Sister Night, so he knows that Sister Night is a movie from that time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think that's it. Really, he's just
okay. He's just putting that together.
I think. I don't know how he knows, but he knows. He's got his ways.
Sure.
Petey's got.
He does find out that that movie, despite being almost lost to time, has been screening at a theater owned by Will Reeves ever since he received his inheritance from Captain Metropolis.
That's right. Every Sunday night at midnight since 2017. Will Reeves has been playing.
It's like this world's version of The Room.
Which is apparently the same year that Angela put on the mask.
Yeah.
So Will's been keeping tabs on Angela.
Right. Like he's got psychic powers.
Ooh.
It's like how else
if he has psychic powers, wouldn't he have been affected by the incident?
Yeah. Why? Like, sure. Yeah. Why wouldn't he have been?
Plus, the movie theater's in New York. So if he were to be in New York at the time of the incident, why is he not dead?
I'd have to look back at the timeline as to when he receives the inheritance. But
yeah,
did he have it at the time of the incident?
All I know is that he still owned the theater at 2017, and he's been playing this since 2017. Okay. 2017 is when she first wore the mask. So I guess that's when the White Knight...
The squid was way before that.
Way before. So we don't know where he was in 80-something.
Right.
Fair point.
85, yeah.
All right. So it explores the origin of Sister Night, and he talks about how there was a series of black mask films, responses and parodies to actual masked vigilantes,
like blaxploitation, like
blaxploitation, basically.
Nowadays, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's funny that they mentioned that Batman is a spoof of Night Owl.
Right, like
instead
in
of
this
vice
world,
versa, where in our world, yes,
absolutely,
Night Owl is obviously no home videos exist because in this world that technology just didn't or wasn't common to have. At least that movie, Sister Night, no home videos exist.
Yeah, well, I think that's a super rare film. Like a lot of those movies that came out in like the 70s and whatnot are almost lost to time, or like the studios have them, but they haven't re-released them or anything. Like he mentions waiting on a re-release from the studio.
Be funny that we've got Peteypedia. Be great if he had Petey Pirate Bay.
There you go.
Where he released torrents of Sister Night and other blaxploitation vigilante movies.
There you go.
So yeah, Will basically says that he still has not been able to see it, but Will Reeves plays it at that movie theater, so he wants to plan a trip to New York for educational
once this all
purposes.
Blows over.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about with that memo? I think that was pretty much the highlight.
I don't think so,
Yeah. And then the second one is evidence of Calvin Jelani medical report from December 23rd of 2009.
Right. Apparently the date of his accident. Yeah. So, this definitely sheds a lot of light on Cal, like who he is or what the circumstances were of his becoming Cal.
It basically looks like an actual medical form that you fill out, right?
Yeah. And
we find out that his previous employer was Pyramid Global Construction.
Yeah, so I guess that's like part of a backstory they made up. Because so if Angela and the medical report mentions Angela that she brought him and took responsibility for all that. So if she and Dr. Manhattan came up with this plan, that they must have come up with some kind of a backstory, right? Like, okay, so you're going to be, a 10th level gnome barbarian, a dude construction worker for Pyramid, one of Adrian Veidt's companies.
Yep.
We'll set your date of birth to this. We'll set your name to this. Make it 33 years old, which I thought was kind of significant because
very Christ-like.
Yeah. In true Lindelofian tradition, we got that religious reference with Jesus dying and being reborn at 33. And Lindelofian is a new word that I've discovered and
Lindelofian.
I like a lot. Just basically describing the works of Damon Lindelof. Yeah.
I like it.
It's on the internet now, so it's a thing.
We find out that Angela is the one that took him to the hospital. So basically, they talk about how there was a car accident or
some kind of accident,
some sort of a head injury, which they note in the documents that there were no visible injuries.
Yeah, they say there was a contusion on his forehead, like where the emblem was, but then that it's now not visible.
Angela took him to the hospital, and she did most of the talking. And the doctor recommended an MRI, but they refused, citing no insurance.
Plus, if he's got a metal ring in his head during an MRI, then
obviously that doesn't want problem. That to show up.
He'd go all Manhattan-y in the machine.
And the doctor mentioned that the patient took great interest in my Dr. Manhattan bobblehead.
Yes. It also mentions that he's like unusually passive and polite and just calm for somebody who's suffering, total amnesia, which is unusual.
Yes.
But very much, like Dr. Manhattan, just
and the Cal that we've known,
calm,
very calm
demeanor.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's it for the PDpedia, as far as I can say. One other thing, previous PDpedia file, we learned about Laurie's blue toy.
In detail.
The phallic toy. It was named Excalibur.
Ah, that's right.
And
Excalibur.
We now know that Cal Abar is Dr. Manhattan, who's also Laurie's ex. So Cal Abar.
Words,
Excalibur.
man.
Perhaps that was intentional. Perhaps.
And like it also meshes on another level because like Dan Dreiberg is all obsessed with Merlin stories.
And Archie. I know, it's perfect. Yeah. It's so perfect. Well done. Bravo. Hats off to you.
Right?
Yeah.
Alan Moore himself couldn't have written this.
That's. I think that's pretty much it. Any outstanding questions? I think
I don't think
we're
so.
Almost to 2. We surpassed 2 hours.
I
think that's a good.
Here we are, like doing our best to keep our content girthy for your ear holes.
So girthy.
So I hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as we have. If you'd like to support us, you can follow us on Twitter at HBO Watchmen.
We've got an Instagram at Watchmen Pod.
And you can find us and links to all of this on our website
at theonedrinkin.com.
Not .org. That's a whole different thing. Actually, I have no idea.
.edu.
Right.
I think we'd have to be like a
school,
registered school.
I don't know how that works.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Once I get the approval. Until then,
we teach one class.
We're just .com. Until next time, we are one drink in.
And you can too.